So let's begin with that, I guess. And I'm
Yeah.
referring to what's called Operation Gideon's Chariot. We touched on that briefly last week because Trump was visiting the region and we had some vague outlines about what that would entail. So do you want to just go through what this plan is before we discuss some of the
Sure.
other issues?
Yeah. Well, Operation Gideon's Chariots, as the Israelis have called it, is the latest attempt by the Israeli military to achieve what it has consistently failed to achieve since October of 2023, and that is the total victory, much touted by Netanyahu on repeated occasions. I mean, the Israelis have announced either that they've won or that they're on the cusp of victory so many times. But here, yet again, they find that they need to launch another massive military operation to achieve that. But this isn't about achieving a military victory in the conventional sense of defeating your adversary. As the Israelis have stated very clearly, explicitly, on multiple occasions, at the very highest levels, the objective of Gideon's chariots is to literally raze the entire Gaza Strip to the ground, to concentrate the remaining Palestinian population into isolated pockets where the only way that they can receive essential supplies is by going to several hubs that will be operated by US mercenaries acting under the supervision of the Israeli military. These people will have to go there once a week, I think, to receive limited supplies, provided they're properly vetted and all the rest of it. And the purpose is not to ensure that the population has essential supplies required to remain alive, but rather to reduce the availability of essential supplies to them, because the broader objective of Gideon's chariots, as again has been repeatedly and explicitly proclaimed at the highest levels of the Israeli government, is to create the conditions for the mass removal of the Palestinian population of the Gaza Strip outside their homeland. And so they have said, that they intend to physically occupy the entirety of the Gaza Strip for a prolonged period, to create certain what they call sanitized regions and so on. So it's really the final stage of this war of annihilation. I think it was the well-known author Masha Gessen who already in October or perhaps November 2023 pointed out the ghetto is being liquidated, and that is exactly what we're seeing now. This is really the final or penultimate stage of a genocidal military campaign that commenced in late 2023.
Mm. And on that very specific campaign, Israel's finance minister, Smotrich, he said what I found to be one of the most revealing and chilling statements. He said that we are destroying everything that
Yeah.
remains in Gaza, and the world isn't going to stop us. And I thought that was revealing, and it's also chilling. And he kind of put out there challenge to the international community. Put aside the US, but everyone else, whoever in London, in Canada, in France, other countries in Europe who are supporting this genocide, has put out a challenge out there. Okay, you're condemning us. Okay, you're denouncing us. Details of which we'll get to later on. But there's nothing you can do about it. We will do what we want, and there's nothing whatsoever that you can do about that. I mean, how did you see that chilling statement by
Yeah.
Smotrich?
I see it slightly differently than the way you've expressed it, in the sense that it's a challenge of there's nothing you can do about it. There's a symbiotic relationship between what Israel says and does on the one hand, and what its Western sponsors and allies um, don't do on the other. So it's while Smotrich's sentiments and objectives are hardly surprising, the fact that he expresses them so openly, I believe, can only be understood in the context of his supreme and, in my view, justified self confidence that Israel can do whatever it wants, not because its sponsors and allies can't do anything about it, but because they won't do anything about it. And he speaks with the confidence of experience. For a year and a half, Israel has been perpetrating genocide, and the primary response of the United States, of Great Britain, of Germany, of the European Union has been to supply Israel with ever increasing amounts of weapons, with political support, with vetoes at the UN Security Council, with constant statements about Israel's right and obligation to defend itself, and so on. So I think here again, the spoiled child analogy works very well. Um, the child is only going to run amok in the candy store when it's encouraged to do so by its parents, and the store owner keeps commenting about how cute this kid is who's grabbing whatever he wants. And, with regard to Smotrich personally and many of his peers, when we spoke last week, I thought you used the very appropriate phrase "genocide mania," and that applies, to Smotrich, perhaps more than almost any other of his colleagues. The guy really is not just a genocidal maniac, but he breathes, eats, sleeps, dreams genocide. He's hopelessly addicted to murder, to mass murder, to slaughter, to destruction, to genocide. It's really, I mean, a total psycho, but a totally enabled psycho at the same time.